You should not be the one saying you're a good friend, a good spouse. It should be other people speaking for you. And then when they speak for you, there should be examples that they're giving that say, when I did this, she did that. When I did this, she did that.
Welcome to the Breakthrough Podcast with your host, Reba, a podcast motivated to help survivors of trauma heal and focus on their full potential.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of Breakthrough Podcast. Of course, I am your host, Reba, and I am here today to talk about the fruit of the Spirit. Now, before we even get into that, that's what the topic is about. I'm hoping that you guys had a hopeful and I think the last time I talked to you guys, it was like 15 minutes, and I made it 15 minutes on purpose because I am taking a step back from doing a lot of stuff that I was doing before. And because I work pretty much 2 jobs and I have a side gig that I do, I need to take a step back. So I took my step back, but I also have been focusing on more of my mental, my spiritual, and my physical health. Boy, when I tell you, it's been a toll. It's been taking a toll on me, not because of anything necessarily bad, but I'm changing a lot of stuff about myself and about my future and about things that I want and aspire to do as a woman of God at first, and as a mother, and as a wife. So with me saying all that, let's just get right into it. I was just on the phone with one of my really good friends. Today is her birthday. And I thought I would talk about this because I had a whole nother topic, but I think this needs to be discussed. So I was on the phone and I was telling her a situation, and I was basically explaining to her the difference between a good and bad man or woman, right? And she, as everybody else, has this whole opinion of what a good and a good person, man or spouse is, or a good woman or spouse is. And I think the characteristics that we compare to what a good spouse is, and it's not just spouses, this is for friendships, because I was explaining to her spouses and friendships are pretty much equal, because your character speaks for all of it. And let's just get to the point of that. A good person, and what I explained to her is, a good person is different from a good man or a good woman. You shouldn't be the person that's saying that you're a good man or a good woman to the other person. It should be your spouse speaking for you, or someone else, your friends or your family members speaking for you, saying that she's a good friend, he's a good friend, things like that. And those are certain characteristics that you have to have. That's just the truth. Now, some of those characteristics, worldly characteristics, are, and they can touch the line with both: integrity, trust, respect, loving, kind, and that they flow over into spiritual. But when we say good woman and good man, like she's a good woman or he's a good man, we say it in a point of fact of, if they got money, that has nothing to do with a person being good. If they say, okay, so big thing is I'm for domestic violence, right? So I'm an advocate of domestic violence because I have my big speaking engagement. We'll talk about that at the end. Last weekend. And because I am an advocate for domestic violence, I know domestic violence is physical, mental, and verbal. Now, there's other factors of domestic violence. There's financial, emotional. So we're not going to get into that. But so what we consider good is someone that is not physically abusing me, someone that is not verbally abusing me, someone that is not mentally abusing me. So they a good woman or man. Not true. That means that they're just not doing it. But if their character, so this is what it says why it's not true. If their character is avoidant, evasive, short tempered, but just because they could be short tempered and not abusing you, they could just get easily offended from something you say. That's not a good character trait of a woman or a man, because if we're going according to scripture, the fruit of the spirit is, and I know a lot of people say fruits because I'm gonna read it right directly. A fruit of the spirit is for your character is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Those are the things that decides a good woman, good man, and a really, really good aspect of a Christian woman or a Christian man. I say this to say because there's been so many stories that I've heard from close friends, family members, a couple I know that, marriages on the rocks and everything else, that has the character hasn't shown who they really portray themselves out of social media. And it goes back to something that I posted today. And it was so funny, me and her had this conversation right after I posted it. We need to stop just assuming that someone is a good person because what they portray or they put on social media, because it's lies. It most of the social media, 90% of the time, is lies. Okay. And I said that because the person could be broken in the inside, insecure, have no integrity, have no faithfulness, but they posting pics or they posting quotes or they're posting, things, but deep down inside, if you really actually talk to them, they're not the person that you thought they were, right? On social media. And I had to learn this as a hard lesson with a close friend of mine, that I had to tell them, you're not the person I thought you was. Because they was portraying something on social media, but then when I got close to them, they were broke, they were not financially stable. They look like they got money, but they really don't. They was just portraying like they was all well mannered and together. They didn't have any integrity. They didn't, hold to what they said they would do. It was just like, and then I started feeling like I got bamboozled as a friend, because I'm like, you're portraying that on social media, but you're not really this person. And it was like such a bad turnoff. It was just like, oh no. Because a lot of times what we do, and this is why I delete my social media sometimes and, just take a break back. Because I post about my kids. I post about what's going on in my life. Most of the time, and I don't really post details. I post about most of us, I'll say, including myself. We're going to post about the happy times. That's what we post about. We're going to post about. It reminds me of this social media thing I seen years ago, where the person got the phone and they like. And then when they take the phone away, behind the camera, they like. And you see this whole saying or thing go past, like, never know what the strong friend going through, or something like that, right? Or the person doesn't have a face. Oh, and I see this all the time. I see it so much. And it's also too because you have to have really discernment too. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother situation. But I see it all the time because depression, let's talk about that. Let's hit on that point really quickly. Depression has such a different look than what we think it looks like. So through social media lens, depression could be you smiling and laughing. How many people have you seen committed suicide? Heard committed suicide, but you never thought that they would be the last person to commit suicide. I want you to take a second and think about that. Because they was this happy, giddy, loving person. But behind closed doors, they was dealing with some deep, dark stuff that they couldn't even talk about. They couldn't even express. They was hiding behind. And that's exactly what social media does. Unless somebody know you personally, knows what you're going through, you're hiding behind this facade of, oh, I'm okay. Depression has a lot of looks. It don't have just a sad look. It has a look where this is something I talked about too on a post I posted, that depression looks like what your weight in your body looks like. You may not say that and you may not see it. But someone that is underweight or overweight, obese, and they would go up and down, or they're consistent with being overweight, or they're consistent with being underweight, it's a form of depression. And a lot of people don't want to say it like that, but that it's their lifestyle. Because truthfully, how you remain and how you feel about your body and how you feel about the inside of you is how you actually portray it outside. A lot of people, as we get older, and I was telling my ex-husband this last week, as we get older in our 40s, now that we're in our 40s, you look at certain people, especially when considering dating, you like, yeah, I don't think I want that anymore. Something that you thought you wanted in the past, you may not want because your taste changed. Your taste doesn't change because of anything, but if you're at a point where you're trying to be healthier, or mentally healthier, or physically healthier, because it all together is in a word. You should be taking care of yourself spiritually, mentally, physically. It's in a word, right? So as you get older, and if you're wise enough to know that that all plays a part in your life and how your life portrays, that shows. So you may be putting on a facade for other people. People like, she really not happy. Look at her weight. And that don't mean you're not happy with your weight. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. But I'm talking about in a healthy regimen of, if you was to actually talk to that person and say, are you working out on a daily basis? Are you meal prepping for yourself? I overstand talking about meal prepping. I've been meal prepping for years, over 3-4 years now. That it's becoming a consistent daily thing that I have to do, because one, it keeps my weight down. Two, when my weight regulates like this, because I can lose weight so quickly, faster than I gain weight. When my weight regulates like this, I know when my curves are, my, not curves, but my up and down curves. That's what I mean, not the body curves. Even though I do have those, when they go up and down, what am I regulating? What am I doing? There may be some things. Your body changes every day. And that's another thing I want to talk about. But your body changes every day, where as you get older, like I said, with our 40s, your metabolism slows down. So that means that the way that you're grabbing and you're actually keeping it. Well, think about I'm 41, I'll be 42 in December. And think about you trying to get rid of so much weight of 42 years, 41, 42 years. That doesn't look good, because somewhere down the line, it says to other people, you gave up. You just really don't care. You got all the money in the world. I don't care nothing about no money. You can be broke or you can be rich. But your weight actually equals your mindset. The way you eat actually equals what you think about yourself. And I'm not saying you can't eat, what's that? I started this other thing with the meal prepper 2 years ago that has been keeping my weight consistent. That once it goes up, I know it could go back down, because I'm not sitting here saying you ain't eating. I just had an apple pie before I got on this podcast, a little small apple pie. Would that make me gain weight? Probably not, because majority of my body, 90% of my body is healthy stuff. So that little small sugary apple pie, yeah, you got a lot of carbs. It does. But would it do a major difference to me? No, because I've created a lifestyle. Y'all need to remember that word, lifestyle. I created a lifestyle for myself that says I don't eat like that regularly. Now, if I'm eating apple pies all the time, and if I'm eating sweets and sugar all the time, because that's my thing, I love a cupcake or a cake. But if I'm doing it all the time, of course my weight gonna be like, we're gonna keep on going. It's going to be hard to get off. But I created a lifestyle for my body that once I work out and I do my HIIT workouts and I do all my stuff that I need to do, my weight goes right down quickly because I created my body to do that. You know what I'm saying? I regulated my body to do that. But that goes back to what I was saying about character. Your character of good man, good woman speaks for itself. You taking care, and I see this men, Harvard just talked about this. I see this in a lot of men that financial breadwinners, they think because they take care of a woman or a woman or a lady or their spouse that they're good man. Lies. The lies. That's a lie. Because that same woman can go make more money than you or make just as much money than you. Then what other character traits do you bring to the table? Because the last time I checked, hear me out. The last time I checked, working was a requirement for whether you was a female or a male. We all got to work. Now, taking care of her, good woman, good man. Listen, taking care of her spiritually, making sure she's on the right track, taking care of her mentally, making sure that her mental is right, calling, checking in, praying for her spiritually, mentally, physically. If she works out, you know, babe, you want to work out together, or you just work your regimen. Oh, babe, what you eating today? Accountability, being accountability. That's what characterizes a good woman and a good man. And vice versa. When a woman says, I'm a good woman, because of why? Because of what you got between your legs, forgive me, or because your face is pretty. Great. I tell people this all the time. This is what I tell my daddy all the time, really. My face card never declines. I don't care if I don't get on makeup, whatever. It never declines. I don't have to get on social media and show that I have a curvaceous body and I got boobs. I can literally be on there with big clothes on and it never declines. I just post my face. I do it on purpose half the time just to see. But that's my point. It doesn't matter. If my face is pretty, no. A good woman speak character and speak life into a man. Try to challenge her husband, her spouse, her man to do better, to go to the next level. A good woman. And I have, please don't get me wrong, because I have failed at it so many times in both my marriages, okay? My ex-marriage and my marriage now. So that don't mean that I didn't have to go back to the fruit of the spirit and say, okay, Reba, in order for you to stay that, you have to do these certain things consistently because it is a discipline to discipline yourself to do these things. That's the same way with infidelity and adultery and fornication. You have to discipline your spirit, your fleshly body, in order to discipline your mind to say, I'm not that, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to speak that way. But that comes with test runs, test trials. I tell my dad all the time, when someone is changing in a relationship, and they's like, I feel like I changed, I feel like I'm changing, I feel like I changed, I ain't doing the same thing no more that I used to do. I want to allow the same things I used to allow. When perfect example, like I told my dad, if I'm in a relationship and I say I'm not gonna be angry no more because y'all all know I got angry, you know, I'm working on anger issues or whatever. My anger issues ain't already all the way gone, but I'm honest about that. And I say, but I don't get in a relationship to see if the anger issues rises when things happen. How would you know? Truthfully, think about it. How would you know you changed if your character is not tested in that time of change? Meaning, you have to be in that situation, not just a relationship, friendship. I'm a good friend. What characterizes you being a good friend? Do you call and check on your friends? Do you just do things just because? If you hear there is a need in the friendship, in relationship, do you just be like, oh, okay, that's their problem? No, for real. I've had people do that to me so many times. Then I have friends that they think of a solution before it come out their mouth. I'm like that. That's what states as a good friend. Do you run when your friends got problems and say, oh, all I can do is pray for her and him? and you just, or you go gossip about it and talk to other people that your friends may not know, but you gossip about it. That's what I'm saying. That's not a good friend. Your character, go back to it. Let's read it. Love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. It's have to speak for itself, which means what I said at the beginning of this podcast. You should not be the one saying you're a good friend, a good spouse. It should be other people speaking for you. And then when they speak for you, there should be examples that they're giving that say, when I did this, she did that. When I did this, she did that. Me, personally, I know I'm a good woman, I'm a good wife, and I'm a good spouse. Do I fail at each wife, spouse, woman in friendship? That's what I'm saying. Do I fail at each four of them? Yes, I do. God is working on me internally right now on all four areas. But the discipline that I have, that I want to be better healthily, like I told you, mentally, spiritually, all works together. So the same way that I'm disciplined on my meal prepping and my food, and I'm not tempted to go eat fast food, and when I'm out of town or when I'm traveling, I'm not eating fast food, even if I want to go to a fast food and I'm eating something healthy and I'm getting my body, or oh my goodness, like last weekend when I had my sweet engagement, y'all all know, who all know me, they have to change my hotel. I changed my hotel, so I stayed in two different hotels for the whole weekend, which was fine. But the first night it was comp. They comped my room, and I'm getting to the point. They comped my room for the first night for this big Whirlpool suite. I didn't even need all that, but the Whirlpool suite in the hotel wasn't even all that. Okay, the Whirlpool suite was nice, but the hotel wasn't all that. It was just like, oh, okay, great. But they comped my room for that. So the next night, because it was kind of way too much, and they forgot to comp me for the second night, I ended up getting another night at the Marriott. I love Marriott. Shout out to Marriott's. I've been in love with Marriott's, and I have points with them and everything else. Totally different switch of hotels, and I didn't even have a Whirlpool suite, but my room was so much better. But let me tell you something. Something about Reba. Hotels must, and that's the must, have a gym. And I'm talking about a clean gym. And I'm talking about a real gym. And I'm talking about a gym that I actually want to work out in. The hotel, that's why I'm not going to name the first hotel. The first hotel I was at, it had a gym, and it looked like it was bad to describe. I think it had a few things in there. I FaceTime my son because my son was with me. And I FaceTime him while he's back in the room. And I'm just like, this looks horrible. Let me tell you what I did. I didn't walk out. I did my hour on my treadmill and still ran and did my hour and did my walking and did my stuff and still did my workout in that next little gym and came back to the room. The next day when I got to the Marriott, oh, so beautiful. It was so relaxing. I was watching church and I was just like, and I still worked out and still did it. And the next day I actually woke up in pain. And probably because when I worked out the day before, I couldn't realize why I was in pain, so much pain. But I was in pain. I still went to that gym and worked out because I have the discipline to discipline myself to say, my body got to be a certain way. If you see my body right now, it's not because of I'm fat or anything else. It's because I'm building weight on top of muscle. So when, like, I posted a picture, my daughter took a picture of me this weekend, and you can just see all the muscle. I'm posting because muscle is more than weight, rather fat. I'll say that. And I still got fat on me, percentage of fat on me, but I'm still getting it off. But my point is saying that is, back to what I was saying, whether whatever hotel I'm at, I have to have a gym because I'm that disciplined that it has to have a gym. And most of the time, I think most hotels now have gyms. But it got to be a nice one. Oh, I don't want to be there. I could do what I did before, but it still wasn't worth it. Because they was pretty much charging $100 more than a Marriott, and it was just horrible. It was just bad. But I said that to say, too, my character speaks for itself. Because, one, I am working on this year to be more spiritually aware and in my word and be wise. That no matter what God tells me or what is going on in my life, I'm going to do what God tells me to do. That's my goal this year. It doesn't matter what people see, what people think, what people don't see. one thing you gonna see is that I'm a real woman of God. And I don't have to say it, you're gonna see my fruit. So if things happen bad to me, around me and stuff like that, don't be sorry for me. Because I'm still gonna be standing what the Lord told me to do. I have to stand on what the Lord telling me to do or be obedient, because my disobedience, and I have been many times just like everybody else, a normal sinner. But my disobedience would lead me in other areas that I just don't want to be at anymore. I was also talking to my ex, and I was telling him he was having a conversation about an unbeliever, when our person we know that's an unbeliever. And I was telling him, I said, you should have told me that information, some information you're supposed to tell me. And I said, because I would have snapped and I want to go, I would have went back to the old Reba. He said to me, which was very wise. What's the point of being an old Reba when that person is an unbeliever? So you would need to lead them to Christ. So if you're going to be like the world and be the old Reba, how they going to get to know Christ? Shout out to Thomas Bell. He was right. He was right. That's what anybody do. Though you have to be still staying in the character of Christ to say, I want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. Something that my husband always say, I don't want to hear well. That is funny. Because that's true. Half of us, not us, not me, half of people are just going to hear well. And sorry, that's another time for another story for another day. But anyways, I want to glorify God in every relationship that I have on this earth, whether good, bad, or ugly, through His Word. That's spiritually, that's mentally, that's physically, that's emotionally. Ooh, them emotions. Because that scripture that says that to yourself every day is a real one. It's not something that you just play with. For the last few months, my thing is, and I know that my spiritual part of me, with my anger and my rise up and down and everything else, has been me being a better mother to my children. Why? Because I didn't have the mother that I wanted to have, and she wasn't she wasn't like the worst of the worst, but I did have a broken relationship with my mother, which I still do now. But my children, I don't want them having the same relationship that I have with my mother. Okay? So my number one goal is to nurture them the way God would like me to nurture them. That's why I took my son with me last week. That's why I took him to see me do my first big speaking engagement. And it was so many beautiful people there. In fact, we could talk about that real quickly to wrap it up. And I spoke to 350 people, where these people was between presidents, CEOs, women that went through abuse, and talking about the organization, talking about how I changed my life, talking about my books, talking about my life coaching, talking about, and a snippet, and read a beautiful poem, and I'll probably read it to y'all one day, that my son had wrote called I Choose Me. But he wrote that because the part of me that chooses, he knows his mother chooses. I don't care what I go through. I don't care what relationship I am, man. I choose me at the end of the day, and I'm teaching my kids that. I'm also teaching my kids to choose them and not go off of what people think that relationships supposed to look like, marriage supposed to look like. If it ain't representing Christ, let me say this loud and clear. So I said to my friend today, if it's not representing Christ, stop calling people a good man and a good woman. Because I need to know if that character represents Christ. It doesn't. And I also asked her, I was like, give me your definition of a good man, a good woman. She couldn't. I'm like, right. We just automatically call people good when their character ain't representing Christ. But they posting on social media like it is. As long as you know their fruit. And if their fruit represent Christ, then yeah. But I stopped doing it a long time ago because my feelings got hurt when I did that. I was bamboozled. It was like a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde. I had to learn the hard way. stop putting people in these boxes where you just, worship what they say they are, and it shouldn't be what they say they are. It should be their actions. Let people actions speak for themselves. I'm not saying people are gonna be perfect. I'm not saying that, but if the majority of what they do doesn't match what they say, then they can't be characterized as a good person or a good man, good woman, good friend, because they will have actions to back that up. I said all that to say thank you for coming back to the Breakthrough Podcast. I am back. Anyway, and so I thank you for just coming to listening. I hope you guys have an amazing week. 2 weeks, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Yes. And like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. And don't forget to visit me on all platforms, okay? We are on iHeartRadio now. iHeart shout out. Okay, so thank you and bye. Have a happy